All right. Get some light in here. It's not that much. There isn't that much light in here. All right. Well, today's the knowledge day. It would feel awkward and irresponsible and reckless and crazy and unimaginable if I didn't hold class in some type of form. Today was a very, as they've been due to a family member being ill. My weeks have been, my weekdays especially have been very reckless. Hard to figure out what's what. Um, go to the school today, but I wasn't sure, so I stayed on, stayed here. Um, because it's a bit too long. I get there too late. Um, thank Due to the live streaming, I could live stream build with you all. But next week should be much better. I should be able to get out there. I kind of know what I have to do as far as planning certain things. Last week I gave a lot of information. I don't know if it was all gotten. I went through a plus lesson that I wrote years ago, about over 10 years ago. Next one, the progress, which I'm probably going to have to type again because I don't have a digital copy anywhere or anything like that. There's a lot of things to build on this week. I just have to think about them. And today, as all day, but definitely today, I really want to hear from everyone, whatever it is you want to ask me. Um, Even if you ask me about the work I do, the books, have stuff, whatever you want to ask me today, is all fine with me. I'll find some way to make a useful build out of it, as I usually do. It relates to the knowledge. One thing I'll say is that I always like to build on people that when I'm teaching you in this classroom to find your own talents, to engage them, to engage more than the normal, and that talents take a lot of time to develop. You see, and you're not just developing the talent, so you're building the reservoir, meaning that it's very similar to knowledge. You know, creativity is going to be based on your unique understanding expressed as a culture, right? And that medium of the culture, song, create whatever written works, um, the handiwork you do, the work you do building things, whatever it is, because your daily job actually might entail much creativity on your part, right? Um, my brother Raja, piece of the guy, he's doing great things with HVAC, teaching people, adding on, becoming greater. And in his job, it just looks like it's a service, but it's a creative enterprise for him because he's problem solver, and that gets the neurons going and building. You know what I mean? So all of this is important. Give me a moment here. Let me see if I can get some more light on my side here. All right. So if you're here in the classroom and want to be counted, please let me know. Anything that you want to ask, please let me know. Um, this road to creativity, I mentioned it today because every single degree, for me, every single day's degree that that will be built on with it, that deals with creativity. All right. Um, for example, when we're dealing with today's degree, knowledge. What I'm trying to say is that creativity is the nature of the creator, you know, and whether we're the original man or the original woman, we have to engage in some way of developing creativity. But some people think of it as engaging into creative measures, right? That's not the only way. Um, it's not just engaging in the creative measures. It's also, when we look at it through this degree of knowledge, and it borns wisdom. I've always taken it to see this though, right? First, our framework, right? And I'm going to build on the framework in a minute. But if to be creative, there has to be a great reservoir of knowledge within the aspect of whatever you want to create with. So there has to be a knowledge of the creative field, right? Whatever you want to try out. But then there has to be a vast amount of knowledge um, with respect to that field, right? So that would be, both of those things would be in that first knowledge. But the second knowledge, right? You've got knowledge. The second one, right? We have the vast reservoir of the field itself. Um, let's say if it's music, the field of musicians, the works that have come before, the works that inspire. Then the other aspect of that field of knowledge, we go knowledge, all being born of wisdom. The other aspect, for me, the way I see it, trying to explain this in a way that makes sense, um, is the development of content that you were developing, right? So there's the content that you're doing the knowledge to in that creative field, the way it's made, the way it's done, and then you engage in it. So then there's now the unique aspects that you bring into the field, right? These are the things that make a way into a creative field, and that way being the born, right? Born wisdom, right? So now when we're looking at developing a creative mind, and we're dealing with today's degree, it was a reminder to focus, right? To focus on those fields that brought in that, right? So for example, right, going deeper into it, I always have a build on the alphabet. King is the 11th letter in the alphabet. So knowledge, right? The king is seen as a ruler, right? But that's not the degree. R is the ruler, the degree, right? And that, to me, that's a simplification for us, though, right? When we look at it in the vantage point and take it out of the the Western world, right? The Western worlds of kingship, and we look into a lot of the ancient text, a lot of the ancient Kemetic history, we realize that a king, is not a despot, but he's more of someone that fulfills the will of the people. So I've always seen it as knowledge, right? The knowledge of oneself. That would be that king's personal knowledge of who he is, what he intends to be, what principles he'll advocate, and then the knowledge, right, of the people, knowing the people, the way the people are, and that would born his way. So, as a reader, one of the first ways to have a creative mind is, so we could look at it even another way, right? We have knowledge of the field or engagement, song, dance, martial arts, whatever it is, that creative field we're trying to engage in and express ourselves in, right? But then we also have the other aspect of it, right? And when we engage that field, right, the other aspect of it is the commentary that you have, the perspective of commentary, right? A lot of times people look at things, right, and they don't look at things like a king. In other words, they do the knowledge to things, right, but they don't apply how the knowledge would be for them, and then also the people simultaneously. So then when they're looking at things, they're not really looking at what they would be doing in that situation. They're looking at how it affects the people and what ought to be done. They're not really looking at if it really could be done, right? So a lot of the critiques of the news and things like that aren't really done from a perspective. they're done from a people's perspective. And to me, that's half of the knowledge, right? That's only half of the knowledge. Right? How does this apply, right? A lot of times when we study the arts that we're trying to study, the fields that we're trying to engage in, right? We might see what they not really looking at what exactly we would do and how we'd engage if we were actually there. In many of the creative fields, if you don't engage in this kind of mental process, the way I'm saying, knowledge, that what happens is that you're not really looking into the way that it's really delivered. For example, you could study all the martial arts, right? From the perspective of these are the arts, these are the moves, this is the tire, right? You know, we're doing all the Wing Chun, right? We have all Wing Chun moves, right? But then we don't, and we see certain people deliver, and we would say, I would deliver it like this, but we're not really looking at what do I bring? How could I deliver that? And would it be viable? It makes sense to people for me to say it like this, right? But in most things, we don't look at things that way. And I'm saying to be a creator, we have to look at things in all ways. We have to visualize the exact reality that we would engage in, right? For that field that we are studying to be a creative field, one that we could endeavor in and actually create in. It's very, very difficult, you know? And in situations like the martial arts, so it makes sense. In others, it doesn't always make sense, right? So one thing about creativity, right, is that there's also a knowledge effect as well in this idea of reflection. You're constantly working to create, but you also have to do the knowledge to how you created and what you created to find the do the knowledge to what you were creating, not just to enjoy it, to critique it, right? But also see the way that it was created. A lot of people know and can analyze, maybe be too critical things that they create, and that would be one aspect of knowledge. But then another way to knowledge it is what got you into that framework, and how do you get into that framework? Because this is something I say about in all the years, not just creating, but certainly all the years covering people that are creative. I mean, that's been my work, right? As primarily as a music journalist, you're getting the insights to how people create things, right? And when people create things, there's a way, there's a what we call the zone, that lane that they get into to create. And a lot of people don't know how to not only get into at will, but sometimes they don't know how to get out of it at will because it causes massive emotional distress. Distress that could be expressed, but then can't be tapered down and understood. Again, I'll explain it first with the martial arts, for example, right? With the martial arts, right? Somebody might go in, and I'll give you an example. There's a clip I put on my Instagram that I was moving to a Ray Barretto song, one of the great Ray Barretto songs. I forgot what song it was. Let me see. It listed it there for me because I was playing it, but I can't really. I wasn't really checking because it was all on shuffle. And any Ray Barretto song will do when you're training. But I think it was my. It wasn't my Ray Barretto playlist, the great conguero, where I play congas and band leader, but it was my Adalberto Santiago playlist, who was the singer on most of those Ray Barretto songs. So it was all of his stuff, but it was a Ray Barretto song with Adalberto. And what was the name of the song? I think I have it here somewhere. Arrepiéntete. Yeah. 19, I think that's 1972. Right? Gotta be 1972. Yeah, 1972. The Message album, right? Anyway, that's for the collectors and stuff because the whole album, that's one of the classics. You know what I mean? One of the Ray Barretto classics. You know, there's so many Ray Barretto sometimes albums that are lauded from people aren't really the best ones. You know what I mean? A lot of people talk about the early Ray Barretto albums, maybe because they highlight more skill on his conga playing, but his best albums are really the hard salsa albums of the early '70s. But I digress. So I was going as fast as I could. What me and my kung fu brothers used to call blacking out. You know what I mean? And just try to do everything blacking out. I make some mistakes though, but just like a real fight, I try to turn those mistakes and pretend I got hit, and just shadow box through the mistakes. You know what I mean? Block extra. Right? I got. I noticed I got responses where I know the people that really do train understood what I was doing. But some people don't. It's like, what is this? What is this? This is crazy. This looks wild. What would you know? And the intensity by which I train, though, is something that the Tao says, right? It says the greatest rainstorm could do the worst damage. I'm paraphrasing, but how long could this last, right? And that concept of how long could it last? So it always subsides. The most I just finished a great David Moranis biography of Roberto Clemente, the great Puerto Rican ball player, and even that hurricane that made him go out to Nicaragua and caused and led to his death. Not the earthquake, but for those that don't know, he led a humanitarian effort, and he got into a plane that was not. Um, it shouldn't have been off the ground. It was run by a charlatan. It was way overweight. It was a plane he didn't even know how to fly. I mean, it was just every mistake you can make, though. But and it crashed a little bit out once it got, once it left Puerto Rico, and that's how he died right after the year baseball season that he got his 3,000 hit. But was I just read that autobiography and biography, and it's bugging me because I'm analyzing. I'm looking at it, but I finished reading that biography. You know what I mean? And what really struck me about that relates to this, right, is that when we look back on the creativity of things, the way that we engage things, the way that we do the knowledge to things, um, they impress something very deep, profound on us. You know what I'm saying? And I was listening to a podcast, and they made a great point that every single thing that he didn't say it like this, but every single thing you do the knowledge to, and if that particularly has an influence on you, is part of your makeup. Everything affects you. You know what I mean? So how do we engage that? I think for a person to be creative, they have to learn to engage all of the knowledge that they encounter. Right? Let me read this. Why as you think? Pardon me, because I have a lot of thoughts in my head, and I'm trying to stream of conscious them through these ideas of all this massive amount of work that I've been doing. I've really been in the lab, and there's a lot of things that I've been studying. I mean, I'm trying to throw them out there in the vein of my teachings, the lessons I've been teaching, the, being the particular plus lessons that I've been sharing, and trying to give some context of usefulness, though. It'll probably give more of a context of usefulness as you rewind it, and that's probably why I'm going this way. But right now, my mind is racing right now, so I'm trying to get it all out, But let me read this wise you have. Wise you, this day of knowledge to know and find out the root of these infinite foundation by observing again what is heard and the way it is done, such as the rubber band toy. The toy, that's right. That's right. You know what I mean? One of the things about using the toy, even as you get injured, I have like a bit of a nagging shoulder injury. So it's affected my bench press. You know what I mean? And it's not really that it's affected my bench press. So I've had to tail off on that and do other things. You know what I'm saying? But reaching intensity with that, is crucial. You know what I mean? And the toy, you can use it for sets, but you can also use it isometrically. Just keep it in place. You know what I mean? So I hope people, you go online, you buy yourself jump rope handles. That's the best way. They also sell jump rope handles without any rope, because a lot of times now they sell the rope separately. You know what I mean? Which is a good way to do it, because what happens is um, wire ropes, the wire ropes roped in thick plastic. Those ropes move faster and they last long. And when they break, you just replace that, you know. And now the ropes, though, they're not connected, so they're swirling. They're basically stuck on a ball bearing, so it's the ball bearing that's moving. So it's the rope isn't going to break at those at the handle either. You can't do that anymore. It's not going to break. You know, the only place that these ropes break now is that part that hits the concrete, you know, the floor, you know. So they last pretty long. They last pretty long, you know. Anyway, as I continue, any questions that anyone has, I'm just kind of trying to share the things that I've been doing. I haven't been able to go to the school. I've been here building a lot, creating a lot. Um, so I'm just trying to share all of these things I have within the context of what we were doing and what we were building on. I think last week, if anybody has any questions about any course session that we've had and stuff, let me know. Again, if peace Malik, peace to the God, justice, wise you, of course, light visible. If you have any questions, please let me know. About anything I just said. Can we build a little bit on what we were building yesterday? How people should focus more on the laws of our culture. You know, a lot of my builds since I've gone online, generation, it's a sad thing, I think. I knew something was off with this thing. I think an observation that must be made is that when they say a generation, new generation, or a new generation's the next generation's responsibilities have come into play, it isn't because this next generation earned it. It's more because the last generation returned. And with all the elders that we lost, though, it certainly is that. And I think that the pressures of that have caused people to choke. And, with that said, I don't think that a lot of the people that are claiming to be doing stuff now, I don't think they were doing anything. Um, I hated the way I wrote that. I don't know why you want that. Yeah. I don't think I could write it again. You know what I mean? I don't think I'd write it again. If I type it over on the computer though, I'm gonna be disgusted by it because I can't fix it. I can't fix it. It's a document now of where I was then. So, so I don't want to. You know what I mean? But I think this. You know what I mean? I was building with you, Justice, about there's a difference between there's too much hadith. I say this all the time now. Like, there's too much hadith. There's too much. The father said this is guaranteed, this and that. And when people say that, the real problem is not whether the father said this or that. A lot of times, I may not even go extreme there. At times, they're correct. The father did say that. Or if they say the father never said that, they may be correct again. However, there's one thing that we can guarantee is that when people say this is so blank, this here is so and true, right? This here is so and true because the father said it. They have immediately said something that Allah never said, right? That's Sunni's hadith right there. That's a hadith coming from Sunnis. Every time someone says this such and such is true because the father said it, they have immediately said something that the father did not say. The father never emphasized the truth of his teaching with any student of his that I ever met. The great Alabi, the great Dumar, the great Wise Jamel, the great firstborn prince, the great Infinite Al Jamar, the great firstborn Al Jamel. I never heard them say that they were told by the father that this is true because he didn't teach that way. You see? And so what happens is you get hadith to enforce things that are not necessarily completely true as an application, meaning that it has to be done this way and that way, and that's the only way. That's not always true. Or things that are true, but then not given an actual reason and not given in the spirit, in the nature of the way that he taught it to those great elders, our great elders, right? You know, so that's something that always bugs. You know what I mean? It's just so when I say that we should focus more on the laws of our culture, um, what I mean though is that the laws of our culture are taking things through mathematics. That sounds so typical of a response from me. But what it really means is that, and I'm going to answer that with another typical response, is that you show and prove. In other words, you take it under the study. Who's doing that? Right? Justice Malik, I didn't even notice that I laughed. Huh? I may have chuckled, right? I may have chuckled. But, right. Justice, do you ever feel that some pick and choose what the father said or did to fit their own agenda? Because some of them quote and push things that came after Allah retained to the essence. This is true. This is true, and I think that they pick and choose things that can be a springboard, and it always comes off very political. You know, it comes off very political. It is very disappointing, and I never wanted that. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I always knew that after a certain amount of years, like after I was teaching here for about 10, 12 years at a law school in Mecca, I already knew that I had surpassed the amount of time that any teachers that were teaching classes. You know? It doesn't mean I was teaching for more years. It just means that that particular classroom activity, the structured classroom, I had already surpassed that. You know what's interesting? Early 2010, 11, 12, the one who told me was Abi himself. He had said that, and other gods that are still with us and really alive and building, like Alim, agreed with that. You know what I mean? And they always appreciated that. You know? And I will tell you though that it does bother me greatly that I haven't been able to go to the school regularly. I do this class online though, but it still bothers me that I haven't been able to go there. A lot of you learn from the class, but just visiting the school is a home for me. And not being able to go there has been frustrating. You know what I'm saying? Um, Frustrating because of the reasons that I can't, but also just the fact that I don't get there also, you know? But I think that people have always been very political. Sometimes people want to build and make it a race. How many students you have? Let's see who has the most students and blah 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 and all that shit. And so as I taught and realized that I had taught longer in a structured classroom setting, I had built curriculum, everything. I had taught things that were never taught there before. You know, reading curriculums, specific reading curriculums, distinct health protocols. Vegan foods diet was never there as a distinct curriculum. People try to tell me, well, he was doing it before. Nobody taught that. Nobody taught that. You know what I mean? So by default, I became an originator. When all I was looking was like this was the way I could be useful in a with longevity. However, right, I realized that there's a lot of fucking star screams out there. You know what I mean? People that are down with the team. They're down with the team. Like, yeah, he's the best knower. But not, they're like, he's the best knower. He's the best knower. Yeah, yeah, he's the best knower. I can't tell you how many disingenuous nods I've gotten like that. Because no one wants to admit who's the best knower in a situation. They have to concede. You see? So what happens is I knew that this starts to denounce that mentality is to not take statistics. I want statistics. I want statistics of the things I keep personal statistics. You know what I'm saying? Um, how I train, the way I train. You know what I'm saying? How long my training goes. Like I time my workouts for intensity. You know what I'm saying? What I could do, all these things. I'm doing that, and I think that I never gave out those statistics. You know what I mean? If I give out the statistics, the numbers are high. I have to admit certain things, but it doesn't really. It doesn't really. It doesn't give you a sense of grandeur when you've done it. What I mean is this, right? The truth is that I've taught in that classroom, just in the classroom. I'm not even going to talk about how I've taught outside the classroom. But if we want to, we could say my whole life with this knowledge. I've probably taught hundreds of students, maybe 300, 400. But when you have actually done that, what you learn though is that most don't really learn. The vast majority that do learn are learning things that they use for themselves, and you won't know if it was useful, and if it was useful to them. And you also realize that in this whole situation, that you, the teacher, are learning more in totality than any student. I could have many students that have learned plenty in my classroom, but no student has been in the classroom longer than me. So I'm the one that has learned the most about people that are willing to learn, people that have to be put in a better position to learn, people that have difficulty learning and getting them to that point. So when I talk about the difference between laws and rules, we try to stay away from having just mere statistics that put you on a pedestal, but statistics that lets you gauge whether you've been useful. You know, my audio is messing up. I think it's because of my connection. I haven't had a good internet connection here. You know, um, the connection hasn't been good here, so I don't know what that's about. But I'm not getting any notices and stuff. So, but yeah, when I started here, I had a little trouble getting on in the beginning, right? So when I say rules, the Haditha things, choosing things that the Father said that you feel are not enforced enough, I'd like to hear one person say what would be the eventual benefit of enforcing some of the Hadith that they talk about. Like what actually would happen if we stop altogether, never saying refinement in a useful way. You know what I'm saying? Um, what could really happen there? You know what I mean? Yeah. Is everybody else hearing me? Let me get a check in from other than Justice. Let's see if he's the only. Hopefully, he might be the only variable, or is it everybody? Let me know. Let me know. Malik 793. Let me know if you can hear me well. Right, Wise you. Let me know if you can hear me well. All right. I'll just continue on anyway. Yeah, so what I meant by the laws is, are we building in the way that the Father taught, where he actually was presenting the truth, where he was presenting an insight that led to the truth? One of his styles that he often used was quoting degrees, quoting pieces of degrees as an answer. You know what I mean? Are we doing that? Or are we just saying like he didn't do it like that? Because he was very much into having people grow and develop, and having the youth um, engage things uniquely and try new things, show and prove new things. All right. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It could be them. I don't know. I'm glad that it's good. Okay. Um, it could be me though. My mind is racing a lot, so I'm speaking very very choppy myself, like my whole diction here. Maybe it's me, right, Justice? Um, but Justice said, did you ever get pushback from teaching things that were never taught there before? How did you handle it? How did you keep your focus from the distractions? I think most of my years I have gotten pushback. There's a lot of stories. You know what? It might have been the way I position my microphone. So there's a lot of stories I have. I got pushback because people said I wasn't teaching the lessons and I was teaching books. I got pushback when I would build that the brown and the yellow seed were just as original as the black, even though I was quoting degrees to prove it, along with other texts about melanin and how melanin works. Um, I've gotten a lot of pushback, a lot of things, you know what I mean? And again, when I look back at it in the years, it's really all just a bunch of star screams at the moment, misunderstood star screams, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people, because I'm not a black seed, or I'm not of the typical culture, meaning I'm not of the African American ethnicity, I think a lot of people erroneously looked at me like I'm some golden boy, you know what I mean? Like I was handed something because I dressed with suits in the early years and things like that. And that could be farther from the truth. You know what I mean? The truth is that I came with achievements. You know what I mean? That's the only way to say it. I came with achievements. I didn't need to be taught not to eat pork. You know what I mean? I didn't need to be taught to study. I didn't need to be taught to be quiet and do the knowledge. I didn't need to be taught these things. You know what I'm saying? I didn't need to be taught that my word is bond and that bond is life. You know what I mean? Although I was taught the understanding and the depth of that personally. That's where you really learn it, though. You know, you can keep your word. A good man will keep his word to all the people, though. But to be a great man with himself, that is a deeper teaching. You know what I'm saying? But I already had years of being obsessively disciplined. This already was my nature, because the only way that I got the knowledge of self was by forging a path of massive discipline and finding that answer. And that's the difference between me and a lot of other people that got the knowledge, though. When I say I had to go get it, I literally went and got it. You know what I mean? I had to get the knowledge. I had to go find it. You know what I mean? It was something that was not handed to me. You know what I mean? And the concept of man being God, all of these are things that I had to look for those conclusions, and I had to find those, and I had to write them. You know what I mean? I had to say I was God in publications before someone that was the true and living God said, you know, there's a place that teaches this. So I had to force the issue. I had to make the scenario that got me the knowledge. So when I got to the school, I have a different experience than anyone else. And it looks like, maybe to some, it looks like I was skipping steps. You know what I mean? But to those elders, I had to show and prove that I didn't skip those steps, that I was right and exact, that could be counted on. Right? But in the classroom, when people come in and disrupt, which happens, it could happen anytime. It's even happened online here. And I've displayed how I'll use the disruptor, the one who's disrespectful, as a tool and a slave to use as a tool for engagement, to show wrong with understanding, show an understanding. You know, I don't like them. I do people. And so much in the beginning that I learned from one to defend everything I was doing in the other. If you know what I mean, then you know what I mean. You know what I mean? And as I learned the martial arts more and became more peaceful, more understanding, and honestly better at it, then I learned to diffuse things better. You know, but it was always about creating an environment of scientific reasoning, analysis. You know what I mean? And it wasn't about giving the best build. Like, there are people that would always come to the class, though sometimes they get caught. So there's a lot of film of people building their best build, their superstar build, and making it onto the Infomega page, right? Because they want to make it to Infomega page. You know what I mean? We'll make it there. You know what I mean? If Mecca gonna laugh at this stuff. But yo, they want to make it to the Allah School of Mecca page. I gotta have a super build. But people over the years have always tried to come into my class and give their greatest build that they've ever heard. You know what I'm saying? And it's a superstar build. You didn't take into account any of the people in the room, though. You didn't listen to anyone's concerns. You know what I mean? Sometimes the greatest build you could give someone is to turn them away to some research and show them what they walked into. That's why I give these three things when I tell people when they come to my class, three things that I each student when they come to my classroom, right? Because I want them. I am teaching them. I'm not showing my gift. It's not, people didn't walk into a showroom. They walked into a classroom. You know what I mean? And because we show and prove, a lot of times the rooms become showrooms. You know what I mean? And that's a problem. This is also his way to the hadith, though, because the easiest way to go out there and be a showman is to stamp down on the hadith, because those are easy to teach. You know, a blatant submission to the will of Allah is a very easy thing to teach. And we say that we got off that because the Father didn't bear witness that, that Allah came in the person of Master Farah Muhammad. You know what I'm saying? He realized that he's the original man, and that the original man himself is a true living Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization in the universe. Right? And we take the showmanship out. Then we have to say, do we as 5%ers like actually sit down and say, listen, I do. And there's something that most people don't, unless you're in a community that you care about, you know, individuals though, right? But I've spent many a time, and almost at least I spend much time, I can't say how much, but every week before the next session that I teach, I spend time thinking of whether I am teaching correctly. Right now, much of that time is spent on, am I making the best headway if I can't get to the school? And if it wasn't for Dar Kim, who I know will be around there, who really picks up without even having to say anything to him, picks up the ball. And I know that right now, someone at the school is picking up the ball because I can't get there, you know? And that's why Big is there, and I sleep better at night with that. You know what I mean? But when you teach a classroom and you teach things that take lots of study, lots of personal analysis, and could get lost in thought, and could just get lost in thought and just say, you know what? I'm God. I'm not going to do all this heavy brain work. You know what I mean? It falls right into the position of doing hadith and the justification of using people that speak against this or teach devilishment, lies, trick knowledge. You know, the Muslim gods or whatever. You know what I mean? That teach devilishment. Those are all the people that give justification for people that are 5%ers to give more hadith. It wouldn't have been any Muslim gods if we just told them to teach it this way and do it that way. No. And that's why I know certain people, they've never held a classroom. See, I'm going to tell you something about the classroom, and I know Dar Kim understands very well. You don't know who's going to come into the classroom. You have no idea. But no matter who comes in the classroom, though, you represent the entire nation. Every single person that doesn't like me, every single person that likes me, every person that doesn't like me and respects me, every person that hates me, every person that really, really has love and respect, I still have to represent. I'm still the one that's representing. And these are things that, responsibilities that, unless you were around Umala, unless you were around, the elders like Naji and others that opened the school, manned the school, kept the school, you know what I mean? People like Colleen that manned the school for years, right? Firstborn prince who was there for years, every single day, every single night. And you don't really know what it is to represent this. It isn't just family, but it's a family that's representing their truth that we can show and prove to the outside world at all times. In a classroom setting, no one has had more experience than that than I have. And so, what I find to be the most egregious, though, is to simplify a curriculum. Simplify it so much, though, that you eliminate the fact that it cannot be taught with a simple rote memorization of rules to do. People think that you can give rules so that they could learn it better. And what happens is that those rules are never challenged. Those rules, the exercise of showing and proving whatever it is that might be true in those said rules, they never get done. So even real law is turned to rules, you know? But why is knowledge before wisdom, right? Why is power after culture? Why is born even born? These are the things that, when you reduce things to rules, you don't need to ask. It's the way it's done. And it's different than law. Law is something that is applied. You know what I mean? Right? Um, Yes, peace. I'm glad that the sound is better. You know? Let me know if anybody has any questions about anything. Let me know if anybody has any questions. Just as you said, I don't care what nobody says or how official they are. I take issue with anyone who has an issue with you, God. Because you truly teach our people. You sacrifice a lot to teach people, honor to know it. That's peace, God. I appreciate that. You know, I always appreciate that. It always means a lot, though. I would say this, like in the last couple of years, I have only taught my class. I have not really engaged people too directly. Unfortunately, I hear a lot of stories though, and that becomes the problem. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. The 1 to 14 to me is a military mindset. The entire set. If you're on the 1 to 14, to me, the entire set is military, right? Just like any military mindset of directives, you get select points of history, but in a lot of ways that they're very militaristically minded, right? Why isn't the devil settled on the best part, right? If we look at the devil as an enemy, then now we're analyzing where he is, why he's there, right? Some of the history of that enemy, the wisdom degree, the understanding degree, right? The fourth, the history of more history, right? And in the fourth degree is interesting because we run the devil Yaqub and his many devils, right? Ran them across the hot Arabian desert. These are military maneuvers. You captured someone, right? Someone was doing harm. Someone was causing harm. You capture them, no, and you exile them to a certain place. And it's a military maneuver to get them to where not only are they exiled, but now where you are from is considered safe, right? So how far did they have to run them for them to feel safe? That's a considerable enemy. It is not just a person that's doing stuff. It is a considerable enemy that you have to drive 2,200 miles. You know what I'm saying? Away from where you are, right? These are all military maneuvers. The fifth degree. I mean, why do we take Jerusalem from the devil? To take anything back, any piece of land, though, you're already dealing with military. We're dealing with war. You're dealing with fighting. You know what I mean? And then just like in the Sun Tzu's Art of War, right? We get into the mindsets. You know what I'm saying? The mindsets of our people's lack of knowledge, the sixth degree, our people's disintegration of unity as a force, the God degree, right? Right? The secret to the devil's mentality and them being exposed, right? To that, right? Remember, a lot of what you learn from the Art of War, especially with the last chapter on the use of spies, is that the guardianship of one's mental concepts, ideas, plans, uh, goals, missions, they are crucial to the people. So when we talk about the devil doesn't want us to know how filthy all of his affairs, that's what we're talking about, though. They're our enemy, though, so they would be filthy in all of his affairs just for that creed that was expressed while we had to exile them, right? So they keep their affairs secret. You know what I mean? Then we have scenarios of what to do. Do we embrace them? Do we embrace the enemy, right? There's always enemies. Do you embrace the enemy? Do you embrace them, the potential enemy? Or do you embrace these people, right? Because now you're talking about peoples, a whole society of them, and how do they engage in civilization? Then you have whether you don't, and you just go in there and find them, extract them, and destroy them, the 10th degree, right? Then you have the most important, the guardianship of war. I mean, the crest of war, I should say. You know what I mean? Have you not heard that your word shall be bond regardless to whom or what? Yes, my word is bond, and bond is my life, and I should give my life before my word shall fail. It has a period there. So to me, that was like two of the most beautiful sentences in 120. You know what I mean? And the military maneuvers, the FOI, the captain and lieutenant, the order of operations. And then you have where this war is fought is clued in the 14th degree, because you have to teach the women how to act at home and abroad, because the war is everywhere. So how you act at home and abroad is very crucial. It's military. It's all military, you know? For what I know, I just know that they got teachings and stuff, but they were always in once they went to college, they became Muslims. So from the what I know, they are officially Muslims. And I'm saying what I know because I'm just going by memory, though. I really don't, you know what I mean? And they were the ones that thought that they could breach both worlds and kind of capture, neutralize, absorb the magnetic, the excellence, the reality of the 5%, the gods and the earths, and then take that into the NOI. You know what I mean? And they've done it fiendishly, they've done devilishly, and I have never gotten, for all the years that I have said this outright, not one of them has ever disagreed with me. They can't. They can't disagree with me. You know what I mean? And like I said, I don't. The reason people can't disagree is that they. It's not that they know I'm telling the truth, though. I told you I'm going to defend the truth. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't come at me with those lies and stuff like that. They wouldn't come at me with that devilishment. You know what I mean? Because they'll get something else. And people have short memories. You know what I mean? How much they have caused confusion about flags, about this, about that. And they've added almost nothing to the nation. Nothing. You know? We can't even, I don't even know what they've added to the NOI. You know what I mean? Because people say, well, what about these books that I'm forgetting his name, Wesley Muhammad did and things like that? For all the books that Wesley Muhammad gave, he also put a lot of religiosity into things and corrupted his own good findings and good research with religiosity, you know? So much so that you can't even call him a scholar. You have to call him a religious scholar. And not a religious scholar because he is studying religions and their effect. A religious scholar in the American sense is someone that is studying religion, but in a very biased, separatist manner. Even they are part of the religion. There's a clear distinction. He hasn't done that. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't done that. You know, he spends whole moments trying to prove that Far did this, Far did that. You know what I'm saying? You leave it up to him, though. Far won the Three Bulls championships, though. You know what I'm saying? He came back as a black sea for some time, and he won the championships. You know, the last three chips. You know, he taught Jordan the fadeaway. You know what I mean? He gave RZA those samples. You know, like really hagiography to the fullest. You know what I mean? They have stuff to mar things that's not even art, that has anything to do with us. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it is obvious, though, Malik. It could be shown and proven in a degree, right? But here's the thing, Malik, right? People live lives. You know what I'm saying? People live lives. Like, we all live lives, though, and people hate themselves because they look back on their lives, and the people that have hurt them the most may have been, if they're African American, probably have to count and be honest in that. The people that have done them the most dirty have been other African Americans. Most people don't know what it is, the experience of having white people tell you what to do, like for your career, write this, do that, you know, and they don't know what that means. You know what I'm saying? And then in this world today where people voluntarily pre-sell out, they don't have that experience anymore. But they do have the experience, though, of cutthroat maneuvers, though, from the 85 that they were once part of. And sometimes it doesn't go away. You know what I mean? And they may not pick their own people because it'd be obvious self-hatred, especially with the knowledge of self. But it comes across with everybody else. You know, if I had to make a list, though, of people that played me in my hip-hop career, the list of white people would be very small. You know, they could be profound, but it's a whole bunch of so-called African Americans. You know what I mean? Can't say it was getting. I was off the one, right? You start to hate other original peoples, though, because that crab in the barrel mentality. It's easy to see the crabs of different shades. You know what I mean? And that affects people. You know what I mean? It affects people greatly. They don't look at science, and it's easy because so many people that are brown and especially people that are yellow, light skinned, very light, you know, they have their own issues with bearing witness that they're the original black man. You know, when I walk into the nation, when I walk among my brothers, other brothers call me peace black man. That's been the case since I came in the door. And it wasn't other peers, it was elders, you know. When I had doubts, though, knowledge me. My teachers were all knowledge seeds, not my enlightener, right? All of them, right? So when all that said, said and done, all of these ideas like this, I think it affects people that they haven't gotten over their own thing. Just like we could say that we're the true and living God, but in our daily lives, we're still dealing with mystery of some sort. We still deal with mysterious chance. Like we won't do the knowledge of things. We won't research things. We'll just take things on face value. And not because we don't have time and things like that. Like we're focusing on this and we have to, like you prioritize, but just because we just won't, even when we could get that in. You know what I mean? Right? I'll answer that hip hop question from Amin in a minute. I see God, peace. Substance, peace to the God. I'm trying not to be choppy. I'm getting no notifications that the stream is no good. Usually I would. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. So work on that. There's a microphone. Look at that. I like to keep it off air like a real broadcast. You know what I mean? Like not like that podcast shit. They always want to show their microphone. I like it like a real broadcast. I don't like to see that shit. What do you think about Royal Allah in relation to Farad, being that he says he is Allah now or of today? I have no idea who that is, Royal Allah. So you got to put me hip to it. So this Royal Allah is a person today that's saying that he's Fard. I don't know if there is, though. I'd like a moment to laugh. You know what I'm saying? Can I get a moment? Malik want to see me laugh. That's some funny shit. You know what I mean? That's some funny shit. We keep dealing with mystery. We keep making new religions. You know what I mean? But the question is hip hop birthday. That's just sprung up though. They never were saying it was hip hop's birthday. They were saying it was like the anniversary of hip hop. Now it's a birthday. I would say this though. Kool Herc and that first party is something to honor, and I'm with it. It is something to honor because it is kind of like that Terminator 2 moment, though. That's when Miles Dyson had started to fuck around with the arm, you know, that came back. And if it wasn't for him, then all that, right? You know what I mean? Right? But so that could be it, you know what I'm saying? And there's always certain moments, you know, certain moments. Obviously, the biggest amount of work to make it a unified, collected cultural movement really is Bambaataa. You know what I'm saying? There's no way that, you know, but it doesn't become a cultural movement. If we could say a moment, a birthday for a movement is not really with the person, it'd be with the moment. You could say it could be a moment of something bad, but that moment still is him recognizing that this movement could happen because he's seeing it develop. It's, and I'm not comparing myself to Bam. I saw what was going on, and I said it's the invisible renaissance because I'm the only one seeing it, and possibly the only one to really cover it completely. But that moment that I noticed that is not when the moment became. You know what I'm saying? With hip hop, it's so unique because these particular graffiti, breakdancing, DJing, all these things are happening. But these things don't happen in the same place for the same and become a part of a collective until they have a meeting place. People are rapping, right? I just finished Todd Mayfield, the son of one of and I finished his book, and you know, always, you know, I still think Curtis Mayfield is the most underrated soul singer and musician ever. You know, and it's probably because he was a little bit more militant and maybe more short-lived as far as notoriety. He, you know, people like Stevie and stuff, they had reigns that went longer. You know what I mean? And they were better, even more prolific musicians. But when we look at lives like that, like Curtis Mayfield, you know, and others, you know, thinking back about that, right? And I don't know why I keep losing my place when I think about these books I've read. It was such a journey reading these books, these recent biographies I read. I really dug into them. Like I did a lot of side research while I read them, and I really delved into them heavily. But one thing that I really noticed, you know, in this was Curtis was rapping, but in the late 60s, right? Late 60s, guys are James Brown, Curtis Mayfield, because Curtis Mayfield, Superfly has overt raps. They're written like raps, you know? And Curtis Mayfield's tone compared to soul singers is as probably the most closest thing you'll find to a contrast to like the way Rakim was when he started to rhyme slow, because Curtis Mayfield's falsetto wasn't just like a high falsetto like Marvin Gaye and others or Al Green, but Curtis Mayfield's falsetto, it came coupled with a very, very soft voice, because as I learned and I realized this, but it had to be told, he was singing as soft as he could play, because a lot of people didn't know that he didn't play like what he didn't talk. He played with his fingers. You know what I mean? And he played very uniquely in a self-taught way. So to play that way, he didn't want to overpower the guitar licks, you know what I mean, that he was doing. And so he started to sing that way more and more. And his lyrics were powerful. So I say all that to say, like, all these things about hip hop people talk about, everything would develop. Even though it was already around, right? MCing it would develop. You got salseros, and salsa is important because right where hip hop is being developed, salsa's right around, and they're all rhyming in all their songs already. You know, there's soneos. Roots reggae is rhyming already because you have toasting by that time, though. So you have toasting that's not all righteous and stuff. So the braggadocio is already there. Big Ute and all of them, right? So You already have that. What else? The type of b-boying that we see before down rocking is after. Getting on the floor is after. So what you have in the beginning is up rocking. But the style of up rocking and moving like that, that's already in a lot of funk dancing. It's already in a lot of actual really super salsa dancing. You know, the guys that could really dance. Because remember, the tempo of a lot of classic salsa songs are real fast. You know what I mean? They're not just romantic songs. You know what I mean? Like they would be in the 80s and then the 90s and today. You know, right? So all these things are all around. They could have developed anywhere the way they became, but it's because they all developed in that one place. If Kool Herc doesn't invent the breakbeat, looping that beat twice, so he could go 3 times, same, right? 1 table, 2 table, back to the first table, back to the second table, back, right? And on and on and on. You don't get that place. You don't get that place where all of the youth culture is colliding. And you don't get, like the way I'm saying, I noticed it was a renaissance, a visible renaissance. You don't get that notice by Bam. Obviously, I did something else when I noticed it. Bam did something different, you know? So if we had to say what was that, like, right, the Terminator moment, like the point where if you kill somebody, it doesn't exist. The Miles Dyson, I would call Kool Herc the Miles Dyson. Like, if he doesn't make up the breakbeat, which no one still argues that he didn't make up the breakbeat as an overt thing. I am sure other DJs played parts of songs again, may have played the part that people like and did it again, but to make it like the thing that you were gonna do, like, if Kool Herc doesn't do that, there's no place, and it needed a place. So he created the womb. You know, that's the womb of it all. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely the womb, you know, of hip hop. You know, so it's definitely. I am definitely with that Kool Herc moment as a crucial moment. I really do see it. You know what I mean? And he calls Kool Herc says he's the father. Bam says he's the godfather. You know, these are all terms. These are all terms, honorable terms that they both deserve. So, you know, I have no problem with it. They hip hop. So many people that love it. You know what I'm saying? So many people that love it. I'm not that type of person because I'm a lot with hip hop. Everything I've done great. I have stuff. So I'll talk about my love of hip hop. I let it go. The things I do, but no one could do all the stuff I did in hip hop if they didn't love it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not one to celebrate it like that. You know what I'm saying? Part of me at this age is like the continuum of music. I just love it all. You know, I also see the continuum of my love of music and the culture as just like Black culture. These are the proofs of being creative. I tell you to be creative. I tell you to put yourself in situations, to put yourself in the challenge of creativity. And this is exactly, you know, why we should have an appreciation because they took away the classes of how to play instruments and we made things like salsa. We lost our instruments or we never really got to play and reggae was made. I mean, because a lot of the reggae beyond the is a mastery of studio equipment. You know what I mean? And when they finally took away the instruments, it was found the best the music that we loved. We're always listening, you know, and hip hop on music that was shitty because it was easy. You're not going to be able to sample well and make a great song back then from any Miles Davis record from his classic 50, late 50s era, 1959, right? But if you take a piece of Chick, if you take a piece of, Rocket, you know what I mean? Like, you could do it, you know what I mean? So Remember, they weren't taking James Brown stuff until Marley Marl had the, Marley Marl. So that's later when they already have samplers and stuff. So what we think is simple breaks still needed some type of equipment and equipment mastery. But I certainly think it should be lauded. And I'm never gonna tell people don't celebrate the hip hop birthday thing, because we don't celebrate history. Our people don't celebrate history. We don't know our history. And one of the great things about hip hop is by sampling, it sets up a whole culture of understanding the past. And that's not just the artist, it's also it's not just the DJ and producer, it's the MC. The MC learns his past. The MC learns the ideas of the past. You know what I mean? Even when we hear those great Gangstar records, it's almost like Primo was sampling words of the past. Not almost, he was. And that used to mean something to me. Like, who was that? What did he do? Like, it's important. It's important. I think that people that love hip hop, if they celebrate it and stuff like that, that's beautiful. I let them enjoy it. That's wonderful. It's wonderful. So I see God. You said he's the new Allah, not far. He used to be in the nation. He's the new Allah. What bugging? Last I checked, everybody that was billionaires is Allah himself. So, he's late to the game though, but it's something to be deified. I gotta keep it real. I study things on specific subjects and ideas. A lot of books, a lot of materials. I haven't been on the YouTube following lectures, because all I do is. I think one of the best, the God Rakim Shabazz, he does his Wise the Dome podcast. I think he's been one of the best filters of great thinking minds, and he's the first person I would ask about this, because his podcast gets, and I'm not saying that because he's honored me with 2 interviews on the podcast, but he's introduced us to a lot of thinkers that I normally wouldn't be finding, because I used to find all the next level thinkers and certainly the next level charlatans out in 125th. But 125th has changed. You don't find people building. You don't find, whether it's a charlatan hustling a new religion, or it's somebody on some kick about the knowledge of some sort. You don't find that anymore. Harlem is different. It's gentrified. And you say, well, I walk down 125th, I don't see white people, but it's gentrified in the mind. It's real corporate now. And, we thought it wouldn't get corporate like that because Disney didn't make it there. You know what I'm saying? But over time, though, it's like it made it corporate. Just like I consider a lot of these hotspots, neighborhoods that people find to be like the bastion of culture, to me, they're corporatized. 125th is corporatized. Dyckman Street is corporatized. I find all these places real corporate. You know what I mean? I don't see much of the culture of the people, but, there. Because to me, the culture of a people is not there if there's no challenge, there's no rebellion to the order, there's no challenge and lenses and spotlight, lenses to the depth of the youth, or what they want, the changes they need, and a spotlight in their culture to what is wrong. And when you go to Dyckman Street on the weekend, you don't see that. You're never going to see that, and that's why I like Dominican brothers and sisters, like, they haven't embraced true Black culture. You know what I mean? They haven't embraced true Black culture, creating it here in America. They've embraced the reggaeton. They've embraced the corporate. They've embraced, and they do it really well, the most hip, the coolness. They've embraced all that. But as a whole, there's only a few anomalies that are really kicking like the next level. Because it's those few. But if you go as a whole, saying a lot of the places that we would call Black, they're just corporatized zones. They're corporate zones. Corporate trade zones. But Malik, that's peace. I'm glad that you see it. He's alive today. What a fucking joke. I mean, seriously? That sounds stupid. Allah is the true and living God. the Asiatic black man. Last I checked, that was you. There's a whole bunch here. You know what I mean? He's the Allah that's gonna take us home. Come on, man. You know, that's what the Nation of Islam gave its biggest arguments against, for the father leaving like that and saying he was Allah. But when they saw what he was doing and how he was empowering the youth in a way that they never could, because they could never reach the youth like that. And they never intended, by the way. They intended to reach the parents of the youth and have them parent getting better. So they had their definite add-on that was positive. But to go out there and say you're the Allah when we know what the degree says, you think you're that man, though? You know what I'm saying? If you're that by itself, though, then, you know, do that mystery God shit. Fly away. Fly away. You know what I mean? Because it's corny. It's corny. You know what I mean? It's real corny. You know? Hey, bizarre to say the least, huh? Just you telling me that, it sounds bizarre. Malik said, I'm going to ask a question that I asked you before, Sunez. What makes Elijah 5%, not 10%? I in no way do I consider Elijah Muhammad a 10%er. I think that people that actually think that are on some bullshit. I think they're being blasphemous, and I think they don't understand context. You know what I mean? I think that Elijah Muhammad did everything he could, rough and tumble, to make sure that his nation survived that early stage when it couldn't, when it was just coming up, and made a structure where they could absorb people and say that they were Muslims, those who submit to the will of Allah, who came in the person of Master Father Muhammad. That was the goal. He set the framework, and he never lied. He never corrupted that first degree and said that the black man wasn't God. But he said that right now you were Muslim. You submit to the will of Allah, who came in the person of Master Father Muhammad. See? So the truth is that he knew, and maybe it's also not the people, but also his abilities and what would actually make the Nation of Islam really viable and grow and develop to the heights that it did, was that he had to do that. I don't consider him a 10%er, because when you see what he said, when you see how he taught, he truly not only saw it, but he truly believed it. You read these answers. You don't see lack a disingenuousness in these answers in the 120. Those are his answers, though. Those are his answers. They were all out there. And he read his later books after the father returned, after the father was here, like what's the name of the book? I'm forgetting the book. What's the name of the book? The Theology of Time, right? These are speeches that are in the 70s. So the father's not around either. There's a lot of science that he's trying to give. He's trying to keep it there. He's trying to give more science. You know what I'm saying? And I think that everything that he did, I know that he had to have known that it would lead to someone that would be strong enough to say, I'm Allah, and I'm going to be able to teach everyone that they're Allah as a daily reality in the daily, everyday world, not in the extracted way. And mind you, I'm going to keep it real with you. This concept of teaching the higher truth of what you are as man, as a supreme being, is not that. It is always taught in many of the Eastern for the sake of so when we look at the history to pull someone out, pull the people that are willing to learn that and pull them out and take them up top, like up top into the mountains, right? Like the mountain men, the Taoists, you know what I mean? The Shaolin temples, right? So, you know, I don't think that he was in line with all of those people, the Sufic orders. You know, he was in line with all those peoples. And I think that Elijah Muhammad was nothing less than a supreme being and a great man. One that every 5% of everyone with the knowledge of self should honor and love and respect, like any great revolutionary. You know what I mean? Because the truth is that he was revolutionary as any of them. You know, in my mind personally, I only the had a greater revolution. That revolution has a starting point because of Elijah. I see you 793. By the way, Master Flash's autobiography, as told to David Ritz, is very interesting. Justice Curtis Mayfield, that old school Chicago. Oh yeah, Chicago soul. You know what I mean? Chicago soul. Back when it was cool for dudes to sing high pitch like they slammed their nuts into. Yeah. You know, that's what I want to be. Yeah, I want to be the dramatics, the stylistics. You know what I mean? The Marvin Gaye's, all that. That falsetto was the dopest shit. You know, still get the best soul music ever is from the 70s to me. You know, the best. I don't even know if it's even an argument. You know. Supreme God, Supreme Being God. You said peace. All right. What do you mean by 3 plus 6 equals 18 over C to F is R? I have no idea what that means. See, feel, and hear as you cipher revolution. The law 3 6 top to center from top center is achieved by enciphering. One thing that we got to do is when we're building, we got to speak like we're speaking to the people. Okay. So if you have a complex equation, though, you're going to have to break that down. Just said, man, Boricua's brought insane flavor to hip hop culture. You know, I didn't know that until I researched it, until I had to go back and prove it. Trying to prove that Boricuas are co-creators in hip hop culture kind of prepared me to show and prove that I was a true and living God. It's like I've always been in this state of having to prove things. And it's great because I think in the legacy of what I do in hip hop, no matter what, someone have to say that not just a Boricua, but a 5%er developed an entire hip hop element. You know, the writer element, the creative writer element is a journalist, and so on and so forth. I developed that. You know what I mean? I overtly developed it. Others, inspired it, but I developed it and named it. And named it so. And like anything, like any culture, there's so many. I'm gonna tell you this though. There's so many people that have never made a record. There's so many people that never were known for b-boying. So many people that did graffiti that were incredible, that changed the culture, and people don't really know too much about them, or they just were out there. You know what I mean? There's so many people that influenced the great lyricists and stuff, and they don't know nothing about them. You know what I mean? That's what culture is. You know what I mean? Peace to God, original man, right? Peace. You are definitely the father of the terminology of the hip hop renaissance. If people don't recognize it, they're definitely going to recognize it down the road. I made that term. When I make a term like that, and I said invisible renaissance, is that I want people to realize how big it is and how much joy they could have uncovering it. And just like we love the crates, for these generations to come, the best hip hop music and the best hip hop things that have happened, they're going to be things that hopefully your younger people look back on the crates. When I was in the 90s, I started to dig in the South crates. And they used to give you I'm telling you, I'd buy a new Mark Anthony record. The only one I would buy immediately was my favorite, India. I love Latin, but I wouldn't buy anybody else, man. Victor Manuel, anybody else? I was like, yo, they're dope. I'm not getting that. And I spent the 90s digging into the 70s crates, learning about the late 60s because that led to it. Then digging into the old Son crates, the early Tito Puente, and then of course eventually getting everything, right? Over 100 albums, whatever, right? Digging into all of these things, Machito and everything like that, right? through the 70s, the Fania, the legends, Ismael Rivera, Chef Feliciano. But I think in the future, I'm writing to people that'll be like me with salsa, and they'll be like that. They'll be like, listen, this stuff on the radio, whatever commercial, I think it sounds horrible. I want to find not only what's good by digging a little bit, but I want to find when it was really great. And I think that the 2010s, I think that this decade, people's going to dig into there and they're going to find a wealth of stuff. You know what I mean? And I took that mentality recently, this year especially, to doing that with jazz. I've always been obsessed with jazz from the 50s, the 60s. You know what I mean? Soul jazz, early funk jazz, hard bop, modal jazz, of course, because, you know, Miles Davis, all of that. You know what I mean? Bebop, Duke Ellington. I have a huge Duke Ellington collection. I have a lot of collection of everything. But I really started to really dig into jazz over all these years from the 70s, 80s, 90s. You know what I mean? And trying to find comparable notes, you know? And I don't think that you can appreciate what you can create on any level as a thinker, as a writer, as a builder of any sort, if you don't have your mind as a black man and woman steeped into the culture of the arts. And it's not only because instead of looking at it as like, oh, that's all we get to do, you know, like that's all we get to do is sports and, you know, sports and music. But dig into there, because the secrets in sports and music are going to show you the secrets of creating. You know, don't think you're wasting your time though delving into how mass, you know, creators are. You know what I mean? You have it on the abstract where you have to analyze the worth of a creation in music, if it's good or not, based on the parameters of the culture and the ingenuity, etc., etc. Then you have sports, on the other hand, that doesn't have to take that into account all the way at all. It has very strict mathematical measures, the statistics, you know, especially if you follow baseball. They have statistics for everything. And you follow these statistics, and then you try to couple in the analysis that go beyond statistics. And what you're doing is you're studying creation. And I think that this is a wonderful way to analyze what is great and what is creation. You know, don't always discount like the things that children do and the things that youth do, or the things that you might be doing as an adult as wasteful. You know, right? Watching baseball was really great this year, right? There was my justification. But just as I do have to know is what's when I rock that day by certain people. He would, I think he probably would get pressed though, but we're talking like the 70s and stuff, 80s. I don't think he was pressed because he always showed the reverence. And for what I know of him, he was being an early student of it too. You know, so he didn't go all the way under the study, but for what I know, he was learning a little bit of it though. So he was, you know what I mean? You said, original man, you said, I assume that you don't care about, however, I'm going to give you your props for bringing it to light. That's peace. That's peace. You know, as a journalist, I'm glad that I even saw it. When I started to notice this stuff in the 2010s, I started to write just for the joy of it again. I had quit many times in the 2000s, you know, many times, you know. By the way, just as you said you hit reggaeton, sure, me too. The same drums all in the songs. Now I see that they call them dembow musicians. So they're musicians that flip the same drum. Boy, you know, you can make a definition for anybody doing sound slop today, you know. But I saw that recently, you know. But Supreme Being, you said 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 equals 18. Okay. Now, upon that, right? You got 7, you got 12, then you got 6 and 18. What does that mean? Because remember, when we deal with supreme mathematics, though, we want to see how you grouped understanding, culture, power, equality to be a sum that equals knowledge build. So then now, how do those concepts unite knowledge? You see, that's where it might get too convoluted, right? Justice, you said, I think Elijah knew many weren't ready to be here where only Allah could give the youth at the time. I agree. From there to the next level. In the history of it all, in the history of it all, I mean, there's no other way to describe it. You know, no other way to describe it. You know what I mean? 793, the skill is straight or low. There we go. 2 L's up. Love and loyalty. You know what I mean? Love and loyalty. You know. I mean, you said, what is your opinion of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan? Do you feel he's carrying on the message of Elijah Muhammad? I feel that he carried. I think that over the years I've heard him speak a little too mysteriously, but who am I to judge? Because that little level of mystery, godness in their teachings, Elijah didn't extract that completely. So they definitely could veer into that. And who am I to criticize that? You know, if they do stuff with L. Ron Hubbard and stuff, I don't really know or care what they're doing with that. It doesn't sound right to me, but then I'm not really in there to see. People that have gripes about the Nation of Islam is because they have different experiences with them. You know what I'm saying? I don't have many experiences with the Nation of Islam or its members and stuff. I can tell you that being in Harlem all these years, um, I've been with the gods and not been told peace, God. So I definitely think that many of the Muslims deal with colorism for sure. Um, or I don't know. Or they know exactly who I am and they don't really like what I said, even though I don't remember saying anything um, that was anti them. You know what I'm saying? If I say that they were dealing with mystery, these are facts. You know. As Minister Farrakhan, my experience with once knowing him personally when I was a young FY was different. Wow, I'm definitely not the same as how we started. Yeah, that's exactly what I think, Justice. That's exactly what I think. I think he says a lot of great things. I think that when I see sound bites of him, I see things that he said. And I think that um, in the reality of things, he said greater things than a lot of the black leaders that we have. But comparing them to other black leaders, which is a church and politicians, that's a sorry lot. So I don't know if I've said much there, right? I agree with you, Malik. We do, and the NY do them, and I merely act. You ask because of the time frame of the father. It's a good question though, but yeah, that's how I feel about it though. You know, I've never had an NOI Muslim, um, confront me or have a disagreement with me or anything like that. And honestly, I don't know if I'm on any other radar. They probably don't care about me. Like who's that? I don't know. You know. The truth is, though, in this world of colorism and stuff, a lot of the stuff that I've done is things that no one did in the nation. But I know that if I was darker, I know that people would be more attuned to noticing it. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that has hurt that whatever notoriety is. But I don't know if it would be a good thing either. So whatever, I don't know. I really don't know. You know? But I know that Muslims aren't really knocking at my door or writing posts that disagree with me. You know what I mean? So, right? Or saying things. It's never gotten back to me that they might mention my name and say I was all wrong about this or that. You know, maybe so be it. Yeah. Maybe there's a dartboard in one of these mosques. I don't know. And then they took it off because they were like, "Wow, that looks like Fard with a goatee." I was like, I don't know. You know, it's like if Fard didn't have the lick back. I don't know what they think. But who knows? Noah said, "Peace, Noah." How do we draw the line between mystery and plausibility when dealing with the science of God? Excellent question. Excellent question. This is where the mystery comes in. Like, do we go too far here? I would think this, right? Is that as a logic, it all starts with logic. That's why supreme mathematics is really rooted in logic, the math of logic. And that's what plausibility is is the science of logic. You know what I mean? So when we look at things, right, is it plausible? You see? And when we look at the definition, are we making too many assumptions without going into mystery? Are we assuming too much with certain things? Right? These are all things to take note, and they would need note on specific points, whether one has gone too far or not, you know. But I like to err on the side of not not being eliminating as much mystery as possible. And so, what I mean by err on the side of not being mysterious, then I go for complete analysis toward plausibility when dealing with the science of God. You know what I mean? Like, is it provable? Is it something? No matter what, we have control of our realities, right? No matter what, though, we still cannot find anyone else having control of these realities. And every time we have difficulty controlling these realities, it's because we don't know all the variables. If we don't know all the variables, then it's still something that can be measured. So it really is just a question of amount. The question of amount is all mathematical. The amount of probabilities, the amount of variables that cause those probabilities. But in the reality, though, those can be calculated, though. In fact, that's why quantum mechanics is so powerful, because it deals with probabilities and it finds these things to the degree that they become right and exact. So when we deal with probabilities, we're almost in all likelihood, to get to the truth. That's really what the key to quantum mechanics is, right? So I think that when we stay away from large statements, it has to be those kind of statements. Then what we're doing, though, is keeping it open to make better questions. You stay on the side of plausibility if you keep everything logical and you keep everything to making questions as opposed to explaining things that become answers, right? And that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to just make answers. Okay, right? All right. I don't know if you realize singularity, 12, 18 existence. That is not a sentence. On the street, would you say that? Like, would you say that? You know what I mean? Little wisdom science, and third is yet rhythm of the whiz of 18. Right now, that's like it's too coded. Where are you speaking like this to anybody? You know what I mean? Where? And I don't know. Are you the same person that always DMs me like these weird calculations that when I click on them, they don't go anywhere? Like the actual doesn't go to a post. But right. Malik, you said, remember we're building on the weather and how it relates to us, right? We affect the weather, though. Our minds control the atmosphere. Our breath takes in the atmosphere, right? So we are actually controlling things. And then on a larger scale, we control things by what we do, what we make, what we create. And see, because we're the devil's civilization, we don't have control of that variable, and it affects the weather, right? Pollution, things like that. You know? Malik, how to sincerely know when shade is thrown at us or constructive criticism? You really need, you know what? You start to know when it's not really useful. You start to know because you'll see an antagonism, you see a condescending nature. It's and sometimes you notice it because the person that's saying it may not be doing anything themselves. The best critics aren't really doing anything, and sometimes that's the way that they expose themselves. You know what I mean? what we want to do, Supreme Being, you make the complexities that are in your mind, all the ideas being expressed, just one of them. You know what I mean? All weather originally, all weather is basically the condensation and the gravitation of air and that moisture that's in the air. It's really the pressure of the air and the moisture of the air and their collision, right? That's what the build degree is about. Because we can control our breath and because we also can expel energy at high levels, we can do that as a concentrated force, though, and we could cause a change, right? When we go back into history and we see the indigenous people doing stuff like that, that's what they were doing. You know what I mean? That's what they were doing. Right? So that's what I mean by that, though. Right now, it's not really something. Um, I give like the most simplest answer for one of those complex things. I have to find that indigenous history about that. But if you look at things in a grand scheme, if you look at what we can do with our breath, the energy that we expend, as a unified force, we can control that. You know what I'm saying? And we also control the level, everyone's level of breath. In other words, all the animals that exist on this earth, right? The way that we deal with the earth also affects the entire plant world because they're the ones that we are keeping alive and they are keeping us alive. So that means that the way that we deal with all of our breath affects the plant world. And the way that we deal with our peaceful nature as product, as a reality that is expended, is how the animal world will relate to us, though. So if we were all in harmony, though, it affects every single thing around. And it certainly affects the weather. You know what I mean? So think of that. The harmony of breath is in all things. So every single living thing that has massive effect on the weather is taking in breath. So every single bit of plant life that you see is taking in breath. It's just in a different way, right? And every single man, woman, child, and animal is taking in some kind of breath in some way, right? And then now those that don't take a breath in that fashion, right? The bugs and the massive amount of bugs that control everything and all of the you know all the other things. This book I'm reading. This book I'm reading. Um, the fungal world, which is like totally in the middle of animal and plant. Um, they're all affected by the plant world directly, the fungal world, or us and the plant world and the animal world. People don't realize how much of an effect we have. We only see things by how much of an effect we have on destruction. But if we had control of that, how much of an effect on harmony do we have is monumental. Of course, I speak with hypotheticals to get the point across because we don't have that. We're not in that time where everyone has a knowledge of self. So the least that you would get, if everybody had a knowledge of self, but not everybody actualized it, the least that you would get, though, was some type of harmony of peace of mind in that sense that they know, right? I'm not even going to the world where we all realize and actualize who we are as supreme beings and righteous individuals. Malik, you said what made the Indians get exiled and where from? When you look at the histories, and what was told is that they were exiled for dealing with a mystery god. That's what my elder enlightener always taught me, knowledge me. I think the Native Americans that we see today, they're from two major migrations, 50,000 years ago and then the 20,000 years ago. The 20,000 years ago are really the ones that are said to be the Mongolian looking ones. So those are the original people that lived in the Mongolian areas, the areas that of Asia after they had left Africa. So it is possible that they had made their own out there and made this is what um this is what I surmise, you know what I mean, as a possible concept. All the original people come from the same place, but they go and they migrate and they make their own separate civilization over many generations. They get different phenotypes, structured nose, more aquiline noses. They might get brown, slit eyes, whatever, dependent on the environment, right? This is how all the original people, but they're still original people. They're not grafted. The first migrations are 50,000 years ago. Many of the tribes developed. Who's to say what's what? What we do know, though, is the next massive migration comes later, and that's the one that's being referred to because it's going to talk about 16,000 years ago. And I was taught that they were dealing with a mystery god. And what I think is that they may have disagreed with certain things, right? To all intents and purposes, they were much more peaceful than what we see as devils today. So that can't be it. When they actually traveled to America, though, these tribes all coincide. So people, when people start arguing, and some 5% is too, they're like, oh, the original Native Americans are black and this and that. And what are the original Native Americans? Because for all intents and purposes, the original indigenous people are the people that were encountered by the devil. All of those original people. What those people came, the first migration and the second migration, through war, through love, through peace, what those tribes became are the original people there. You know what I'm saying? Because people keep saying that, but I haven't found a history where the people that came from Mongolia, or with what people say is the Mongolian traits, I should say, the Mongoloids, and those with the Mongoloid traits, they didn't come warmongering. They didn't come to cause devilishment. They didn't come to destroy and take over. So, and no one can really show and prove that the builds and add-ons that they had that become the many indigenous cultures that we see, and the unity, the vibrancy, the specific things that we see alike in all of these indigenous tribes, whether you're in the ones in America or the ones down south from where I'm from, the Arawaks, right, in the Caribbean islands, Jamaica, Cuba, Puerto Rico, etc., Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Haiti. Those are all original people. Those are all original people migrating. Like, for example, the Arawaks, right? They migrated all the way from South America, right? So there's long journeys and long proliferation of these people uniting. So it's almost like people want to say, oh, the original Native Americans were black, and you're really trying to find the features. You're really going to just lumping separately. A lot, that's not actually true. And I don't know why people say that. And say they read Jack Forbes' work. Jack Forbes' work showed how that separation of the Indian and the black was something that wasn't happening in the early censuses. It really happened later. The separation of what is black and what is Indian and stuff, that happened later. So all that stuff is grafted man-made. Like, people don't really understand, like, the categorization and saying that there's no race. That has not affected white people. That has affected original people in their unity amongst each other, more so than white people uniting with white people. They have no problem uniting with what they do. They really don't. So anyway, those are some initial thoughts about that. Because I find that also disrespectful when people say, like, oh, because you're giving a certain phenotypical tone, structure, and tone, and say these are the original people of indigenous America, and then you show a person that has indigenous features, the black hair, the typical indigenous features like my old earth and my family and myself, and say, well, those aren't the original. These are the invaders, the Mongoloids, and that separation. Now you're steeped in the seventh degree and the 1 to 14. You know what I'm saying? Now you're not making a point here because I don't remember any documented devilishment. You know what I'm saying? I don't remember any documented devilishment that you can say that you can even document that is different than any other the unified tribes or warring tribes that existed throughout the years pre grafted man in Africa. It's all the same. It's unique troubles, but it's not devilish troubles of that magnitude. So I take exception to that. You know what I'm saying? And just like a lot of Native Americans separate themselves from African Americans, and they do themselves try to separate themselves from the African phenotype, pathetically to many extents. For so-called African Americans, whether with the knowledge or not, for them to be doing that is just reverse. You're doing what was projected. You're reflecting, and it's a reactive pseudo scholarship that is very much more of a reflection of bad mentalities and scholarship than it is of an insightful, proactive reaction. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. You know. I'm noticing here that I only have 943 subscribers. So just to give that plug, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. You know what I mean? Because it'll help too. Because I've been erratic as far as getting these start times on these Thursday nights. So it definitely would help to get that bell. To get that bell notice. Anybody? Any questions? I'm gonna let you deal with it. I'll try to be here as long as possible. I'll be here probably until 9. A little early for me because you could tell from the fragmented way I was building when I started. Though it's been a very harrowing, and I don't notice it all. I make every day so productive that I don't take notice how difficult the day might be. You know what I mean? So sometimes even myself, I do need to take time to meditate and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And take notice of certain things. You know what I mean? Even when I do take notice of certain things in a journal, that is more of a work on a pages. So but I'd like to be here for like until the 9 o'clock hour. Be useful to you all. As we go along, I keep saying if you really want to build about something and you want to be a writer, on any level, get at me. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't know I do all types. I will coach you as a writer. I will show you how to write. If you want to write, build something, I get in the 5% media, all this stuff. Um, but I do a lot of editing work and all that kind of stuff, you know. Um, but let me know if there's another question. But I'm gonna be here until 9. All right. And really, my goal is to get back to the school next week. I really need to get back. And just to let you know, I'm not sure, I might be online on my IG maybe this weekend just to build about my book and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And the Peace Course book is being edited as we speak. So that's going to be a thing. Not a required book. You know what I'm saying? Not a required book. You know what I mean? Uh, it's just, it's a heavy book. It's a profound book, I think. Cleverly written book, all sorts of goodies in it. You know, that's coming out soon though. Also training students out here in Staten Island. So if you're in the New York area though, make that pilgrimage though, because when I teach you, it's going to be worth the time that you took to come here and really learn. You're getting something not just physically from me, but you're also getting things. Um, you're getting things from me that go beyond the classroom. You know, training protocols, workout protocols, diet protocols. All these things come with training. They come from training. In our concentrated supremacy training program, a martial training program. So I also do Zoom for people to learn certain things too. Okay. Anybody can email. You all can email me um, for anything that you'd like, stuff like that. You know what I mean? For you, Supreme Being God, you got to do some more writing though. We got to get that writing where people can actually read it. I know you're not talking like that when people are outside. I mean, you know, right? It's Ahmad. It's right above. It's right above in the chat. Sunez97 at Gmail. So you know, um, anything you need, yeah. All right. So if for the martial arts, I do charge, but when you learn of my rates, though, you'll know how much it's worth. You know what I mean? It really is a great rate. You know what I mean? And again, if anybody wants to be a student of me in this knowledge and doesn't have an enlightener and wants to go through 120, though, we can't just be talking here. We have to be talking outside of the classroom. So you have to email me. We have to get into this. You know what I mean? Just like we would if you were physically in my classroom, I would say the same thing. Okay. All right, let me know. I'll be here for another 10 minutes, okay? All right, at least till 9 o'clock, okay? So another couple of minutes. Let me put down the 5% media. I myself have a lot of articles I have to put up there. Um, just haven't been writing in that scope lately, so I haven't been able to finish. I have a whole bunch of ideas I didn't finish with that, but and also I gotta type that plus lesson. The God's asked for the plus lesson. I gotta type it up, right? What else? And also, right, email me if you're interested in the concentrated supremacy martial arts program that I have going. All right. If you're in, if it's for those on weekend, I mainly teach Sundays for Sunday mornings, Fort Wadsworth, right, Staten Island. Very easy to get there. It's very easy to get there, but and it's out of the way. It's definitely a great place to train, though. So, I also do Zoom trainings for people too. You know what? I'm doing an EP with my man Willie Ways, and it's five. I just wanted to put some concepts out there, concepts that I create. That the, one of the songs is actually book art and art. That whole poem will be a song. Um, if you have the book, it's Trapped on Wild Land. That one is an actual song. That's why you see when you read it, it has its own chorus and stuff repeated. Um, but 5 songs. One of them is really a song I really love. Infinite Mind, about kung fu. Um, one came out really great. Pretty much writing. I can have some ideas of the samples that I want to use, but I actually try to get that. I mean, get that up, you know. But definitely, like one of the songs, I can't even describe it because it's so different. That yeah, it's I will say this: it's a reprise, my own reprise, like, in honor of one of my favorite songs, and I basically took on that style of emceeing, but with my own understanding. And you when you see the song, you'll know why it's a perfect fit for me, you know. And that one I have the most fun doing because some of them I just had fun with it. Like I'm doing the voice of that MC on that song, and it's kind of funny to imitate. So it becomes a fun song to do. You know, I'm still writing it. There's still some extra lines that need to be put in there. It's a really long song. I mean, that might give it away, but it's not Razkaz's Nature of a Threat. But because that would be kind of a song I would do. But this MC has more of an interesting um, idiosyncratic voice, like a, a very well defined voice, like very perfect for imitation. You know, like, it has a lot of flows and ideas that you can imitate and stuff in a good way, but a fun way. You know, I definitely have fun even when I read it to myself, though. You know, the Infinite Mind song was that one's done now, but then that's it. You know, let me pull up the document. I actually have the document here since you got me talking about that in the last couple of minutes. But you know, when those 5 songs are done, the album, I don't even have a name for it though, the whole thing. But yeah, yeah. So out of the 5 songs, there's only one that really isn't completely written yet. It's mainly in its a lot of draft. I have to throw things away, pick things. Some things because I don't do a lot of spoken word and I don't MC. There's a lot of stuff that reads better than it. My stuff will always read better than it sounds when you sound it out. you know. Um, yeah. So, but I decided to narrow it down to 5 just so I could get it out, make it concentrated. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, actually, I'm working on that. You know what I mean? And just to say I've experienced that, to know what it is to like to put my own thing together like that, I think it gives me even more insight as a journalist about the music. You know what I mean? I've already gotten so much insights from making songs with brothers like yourself, Justice, and so many other people. You know what I mean? I just did a song for Jux Diamonds, my man Jux Diamonds, and for sure the next one probably out is the song I'm on with the God Substance 810. You know what I mean? The Umbrella, right? I did a song with him and Allah Preem. So, and now I do a song with two of the great MCs of this era that I've been building with and teaching. So, have fun with that too. And when when I hear, I always feel like I could do better. You know what I mean? Out of curiosity, are there any known ancient texts that reference the timelines given in the Asiatic calendars, 66 trillion years, where these are factual or more symbolic? It's really an events calendar, so it's not. It would be hard to find like that, like those specific events, because a lot of this history. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's history that was kept secret very well. You're not going to find it in other calendars or other histories and stuff because the histories don't go far enough. Um, one of the histories that's precise about these last 6,000 years probably is destruction of black civilization. That's the first example I always give of a scholar that actually has the timelines that we discussed, and that most important timeline when the devil was created. That's the time of destruction of black civilization, 4,500 before Common Era to 2,000 Common Era, 6 years, and it took 6,600 years to make the devil, and then for the devil's rule to happen. So, you know, but a lot of times when I study history, I don't see those parallels as direct, as clear. But the style of teaching was, remember, we're talking about times that were prehistoric, that were before recorded history in that level. So you don't see it. You know what I mean? You know, it's not even. It's again, Supreme God. I have no idea what you were saying here. Power and force converted into energy is inhibition. Is it really though? Because that's not what inhibition means. You see, inhibition doesn't mean that. So I don't know where you got that. Right? Inhibition makes someone overtly self-conscious, but in a negative way. It keeps them stuck. So how would you use the wrong word? You know what I mean? Power and force convert into energy, though. I mean, we're talking what we're getting to is kinetic. How would that be But how would that be self-control? You know, that's very arbitrary. It could be anything, right? The KNW is pressure in vacuum. I feel like you're getting overly scientific, though. I gotta ask though, were you locked up? Because you sound like a lot of the letters I get. You know what I mean? Like you're way too much in your head. You know what I mean? Justice, you asked me, can the album be pre-ordered? You need to read simpler books about builds. That's what you need to do, Supreme Jody. You cannot speak to people like this in the street. You know what I mean? You sound crazy. It's convoluted what you're saying. Um, push and pull, as a but that's not what are you saying here? Like you're just throwing concepts out. Push and pull. Of course I know push and pull. Yeah. And there's no word as a kung fuist though, right? Neris Garcia, A-Preem. You mean A-Preem in Chicago, Neris. Justice, you said that can the album be pre-ordered? I haven't even finished writing it. We've only like completed one song. So like Foley, it's not doing anything to it anymore. So yeah, we have like more work to do. But I feel like once I write it and get it out to my man Waze, um, it won't be long. It won't be long because he's got such a great amount of good beats, and I really trust his beat selection and production. So it'd be more like a Victor Vaughn project. You know what I mean? Ah, good. Thank you, Neris. Okay, then we will build personally. Okay, that it takes self-control to handle the push and pull of life. Now, shouldn't Supreme God? That's what you needed to say in the first place, right? That's what you need to say in the first place. That is a profound thought, and it doesn't need all the other shit on it. You know what I mean? The other shit is complex stuff that shouldn't be in there unless it brings you to a deeper understanding. But you're basically going backwards. You're saying something complex. You're saying something that is already well said, but giving it the envelope of mathematics. That's not what we're doing. Okay? We're using mathematics to further the concept that we have, not to envelope, and make them, and garnish them, you know. President, peace. When dealing with supreme math, is there any other theory used besides addition? I only see the gods. Not even going to advance. Not even going to advance. You still have subtraction, division, multiplication. I think that you're not getting the point here. Why that? It's not a lot of it. Mathematics is a form of logic, though. You see what I'm saying? So the depth is not in the equation. The depth is in the principles added to the numbers. You see? It's a way of coupling principles. It isn't a way of calculating them. You see? People think that supreme math is a formula. It is not. It is a way of coupling the principles and the mentalities that you have. You see? So it is not that. You know what I'm saying? Right? Yeah, serious. I get that. I get that. Serious mathematics a lot, But sometimes people don't know, so I don't want to make jokes and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I see a sincerity of what Supreme Being God is doing. I just want them to get that. You know what I mean? Because you get lost in that, though. It's always two people. If you know how to learn how to play your instrument simple, that instrument of supreme math, then you can play it the way you want. But you have to learn how to use it the right way. You have to learn how to use it the right way. Then you could play it better. Okay. Right. It's simple, but we can take it complex from there. But we have to know how to express simple. We want to use supreme mathematics to take very complex topics and be able to simplify them, to make them easy to understand. Not simplify by dumbing them, but simplify them in the way to make complex concepts easy to understand. You know what I mean? That's what we want to do. You know, that's right, now. That's right. You know. Like I said, A-Preem is a great example, though. Keeps it very simple, though, but there's a lot of complexity in the way he builds. You know what I mean? Salute to the guy, A-Preem, one of the great MCs to me of this era. He has the aura that reaches a peak nobody has. You know what I mean? I say this all the time. There's a lot of rugged MCs out there, but nobody's more rugged. You can only be as tough as A-Preem. Can't be tougher than that. You know what I mean? So whatever I do on a mic, though, I'm probably gonna have to just punch somebody in the face while I record to get there. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's bench press music with the knowledge. You know what I mean? And that's what the God is. Great music. Look for him though, A Preem. You know what? Let me put a link here. We need to know about the guy. New album out. Let me see if I get the right. They're always ruining his pages. That new album is One Man Death Cult, tough as nails. You know, check that out when you're working out though. You know what I mean? Be the war god, right? But on that note though, if you're not inspired though, play that out. You know what I mean? Everybody that came on, if you're in the area though, come on, inquire about training out here. You know what I'm saying? Because training with me is an experience. You know what I mean? Um, get out here, see the city. All right, all right. So contact me in the email, all of that. You know what I mean? And I know why. Just as you asking about my album and stuff like that, because I know when I'm finished with this one, I know that we might have to start one of our own. You know what I mean? Us too. So I get this one out the door though, and people are okay with it. And well, as much fun as I'm having now, I definitely will continue to enjoy it. You know what I mean? But I could say this though. I don't think any journalist has as many songs with artists as I do though. Definitely probably have that on the bag right there. You know, I think I have. How many songs have I done with people? I mean, I'm just there's so many that haven't been released yet. Some that I didn't think I did that great. I had to find my way in the beginning. I did some that's like the new, you know, newest song I'm on is the new Leftovers because I'm part of the Leftovers NYC, and so I lead off the Leftovers anthem part 2. So that's the latest song I'm on, you know. And I got to keep it real. Probably the song I'm most proud of though is probably the 9,000 miles I did with you, Justice. You know, with Justice, aka King Kamal, and Universal Law Degree. You know, the Universal Law Degree with for Aguilar and Sadat X. You know, that great album they had, Gods Have Arrived. They put me on a lone song at the end. You know what I mean? So I was very proud of that because that was a great album they put me on. But there's so many. Being Napoleon the Legend song along with Sky Zoo. You know, Billion Man Rebellion, Plex Diamonds, Raph Almighty, Mike Hands. I've done mad songs with Willie Waves too. I've been on these 2 of his songs, right? Skankster Rap Martyr, you know. So it's a lot of people, and some more to come. But I definitely have enjoyed doing that. You know, it's a great honor. But until next time, contact me, email me, so we can build. Okay, and if you can get out to Staten Island, though, and you're interested in training, come through. You know, if you really think you can't pay my rate, and after you learn my rate, and you if that's too expensive for you, come on out, do the knowledge. You know what I mean? All right, come on out, do the knowledge, see if it's worthwhile for you. All right. I know brothers like 793. I know you in the New York City area. You're gonna need to learn because we gotta learn to fight. All right. So if you're ready, you're ready. All right. So with that said, I'm gonna let everybody go. Peace.